Hey, if you're a supplement company and you're looking to make claims for your supplements to use in your marketing to really increase the power of trust and credibility, then this episode is for you. And especially for you if you don't want to do a clinical study, which can cost a boatload of money. There's an alternative that I unpack in this episode with Dean from Heads Up, the personal health analytics company. Welcome to Health Business Mastery, the Creative Thirst podcast. I'm your host, Bobby Hewitt.
Thanks, Bobby, for having me. Name's Dean Lilley. I'm Director of Business Development for Heads Up Health, and I work with supplement companies and other device companies that are looking to validate their products, leveraging wearable data and questionnaires to really get a better understanding of their products and what they do, and then being able to communicate that to their actual clients in the forms of marketing and build consumer trust.
Yeah, that's a great opportunity out there because trust is really what really connects people to buy supplements. It's really a very different buying experience. And one of the reasons I wanted to have you on the show is really to talk about one of your recent case studies with Mode+Method.
That was an interesting one. For those who don't know us, we got started really working with functional doctors and looking at how people and clinicians could validate their health protocols. And as we continue to dive deeper in that space, we found supplement companies kind of, whether they be newer or older, starting to gain interest in the type of data we collected. So Mode+Method came to us. They were launching a new product that was really geared towards improving HRV. And there are a lot of consumer devices, most of which you've heard of, Aura Ring, Apple, etc., that are they're available to the consumer market. So there are a lot of people that have them, and they wanted to look at using those devices. How does their supplement compared to someone who was not on their supplement versus when they were, and how long did it take? What is the correct dosage to see the highest impact on that HRV metric? They really just wanted to see its overall effect. They hadn't gone to market yet. This was really pre-market research. And they wanted to use that to help catapult their marketing campaigns when they officially launched. So we set up a study with really roughly 30, I think it was 30 or 40 individuals who already had Aura Rings, basically monitored their data before they were taking it, and then started giving them the supplement, and each week looking at HRV metrics. What's interesting though, when looking at using Aura or any of the other devices out there, not only are you getting HRV, you're getting sleep data, you're getting REM, deep sleep, etc. So there's a lot of other, while the initial data was to really look at HRV, there's a lot of other data points that were relevant that they realized that the supplement had an effect on, specifically some of the sleep metrics. So it was really cool to see. And from a success standpoint for them, they got the results, were able to put together a pretty nice press release and help jumpstart their business. And they're doing really well with that product now.
Yeah, so there's tons of opportunity there, right? Like they could use that information in their marketing. They could use that information to make substantiated claims, right, that back up the data. So without doing a clinical trial and spending all that money for a clinical trial, this is like a nice alternative for a supplement company.
Yeah, I mean, what we're finding is that there are a lot of companies out there that do want to do research, but the price tag on a traditional double-blinded, placebo-controlled study can be anywhere from $100,000 to $300,000, and that's just not feasible for a lot of companies in that early to mid stage mark that do want to have the data and what they want to gain consumer trust, show that they're very interested in understanding their product and pushing out the correct messaging, but don't necessarily have that budget, right? Mode+Method, perfect example, new brand. Really, this is their first line in that brand that they're going out with. So because we had already had this we had this setup, I call them consumer validation studies, you're able to observe a lot of people for a relatively cheap cost and get that definitive data leveraging those consumer devices. And I should have added, we also add in clinically validated questionnaires, sleep questionnaires, et cetera, as supplemental data that you might see in a clinical trial, so that you can compare those results. But ultimately, the overall goal is to get, in a cost-effective way, data that can be backed, that your consumers, and as I'm sure a lot of those listening know and we've discussed and I've heard you discuss, is that the consumer expectations on safety, on making the correct claims, they've only increased since COVID. And as the market continues to get more competitive and gets very, very busy and noisy, having these types of claims really help a brand stand out. So gold standard are typically $100,000 to a few $100,000 we wanted to offer, and we're really interested in continuing to offer these kind of intermediate steps before necessarily getting that big or getting to a level where you can afford that, but still wanting to be able to make claims on the data. Now, you can't, the real difference, and I think that this is important for people listening to understand, is going a clinical trial, there are advantages from a sense of being able to say this actually treats this disease or this disease state. But leveraging this method, you can still say and still really, really highlight, we studied 50 people. We put them through this protocol, and this is what we saw. We saw a 20% improvement on average. And then there are ways to highlight specific individuals when it comes to, we had 3 to 5 out of the 50 that saw really great claims. Now you're at really, really great improvements in whatever that supplement was designed to affect. And now there are these great kind of highlight cases of individuals that saw those great ones that you can push out and use in testimonials and identify the right person for that target market that the supplement company is trying to go after. And it really, again, it does really get to that, I would say, more than just a middle ground of not doing a clinical trial, to build consumer trust, because frankly, the majority of supplement companies aren't doing that to start with. So I think it definitely adds an additional layer of credibility.
Absolutely. Like if there's any research claims in a supplement sales letter, it's really just research on ingredients that have been done by other people, right? It's not all the times, although it should be based on the same dosage that's in your supplement. But this is really like directly, this is your supplement. Like this is not like we study this one ingredient that's in the supplement that's one of many. This is like, no, this is like the real deal of like, this group of people took your supplement and here's the results. So how does it all work? Like, how does you get the data from the wearable device? You mentioned there's a second component of questionnaire. Is there any other components? Like, how does it all work?
I think our CEO Dave, he realized early on, as this wearable kind of as the wearable market started to grow, that there was this huge disconnect, even in traditional healthcare before wearables. And my lab data is in 5 different places. My chart notes are in another 5 places. I'm changing, if I'm moving, I'm changing doctors. And there's this huge data connectivity problem in traditional healthcare. And that's kind of where this started from. And as these wearables and apps started coming in, there were more and more use cases to leverage multiple of them at a time. Correlative effects between weight, what you're eating, and sleep. But the data was all fragmented. These companies are singularly focused on making the best product for what they're trying to view. And that's what they should do. So where we came in is we created a platform in which we have, I think, about 25 different API connections now with all of the major wearables and apps that span anything from blood pressure, continuous glucose monitors, all of your traditional wearables, and put it all in one place. And when you do that, you can start seeing those metrics in real time next to each other. So starting to paint a more 360 view picture. So we have a platform, web and app. And the wearables piece is just one piece of it. What we realize is wearables will tell you what someone's body is going through, some of their behaviors. But there's also a big piece of health and wellness longevity is quality of life. And that's when we decided to start adding in things like questionnaires, whether they be clinically validated or just daily wellness or weekly wellness questionnaires, start painting a bigger picture um, of okay, my A1C has gone down because I've been eating better and I've been exercising more. But what does that really mean for me on a day-to-day basis? So we added that into it as well, along with being able to capture everyone's lab data. We have a system where we can capture data from any lab. We call it our concierge service, but you bring it in. And also, we're seeing that in the validation studies for more sophisticated supplements that are targeting a specific biomarker. We can do before and afters, should have mentioned earlier. But anyways, all to say, we have these now, this automated route to collect the data that's happening between the self-reported data and those check-ins. We have the lab data, and then we have that self-reported data, and we can paint a really clear picture. And what this enables a company to do, the company might come in and think, okay, I'm just going to affect this biomarker. But by adding the wearable and asking these questionnaires, these companies, and specifically some of the supplement companies we worked with, started really seeing, wait, this is having an effect. I'm seeing an uptick in X, Y, and Z metric that I didn't expect. And this is where they might start seeing signals for ways to either optimize that product over time to better affect that, change their marketing to include it, or develop a new product line that specifically treats that, because now they're really getting deep with their customers. And I like to call them, there's like hero customers, the ones that want to partake in this, that are taking these supplements. You build a really strong relationship by putting someone through this process. And now you start seeing what else is going on and can really help give you the signals to decide what the next investment is if you want to continue your process of introducing new supplements that meet your specific customers needs.
Absolutely. It's like a little research study for product development. Do the supplement companies have any like sort of rights to like contact those people, or how does that work?
Yeah, so typically what we do is we work with them. We have a standard template for for an actual consent process to be a part of the study. So when someone logs into the system, there's a consenting process in the system that's custom to that brand that defines the guidelines. And that customer, before they put their first piece of information in, just fills out, I consent to this. So depending on the level of involvement that supplement company wants to have, they can be in control of that through the narrative of that consent process, making sure their customers that are partaking are informed. But frankly, the people that are coming in are typically those already interested or want to be customers of that brand. So they're trying to become a part of it. And we've seen really great feedback on communication, one-off emails, asking to get on the phone with someone to talk about their experience, which is all great product feedback as someone's developing or launching a new product or optimizing a new product that's a legacy product. So yeah, it's really a nice way to build a strong relationship with a core group of people. And what we actually have seen is sometimes outside of just a 12-week validation study, they might keep it on and continue giving access to that patient in return for maybe providing free product, to see not only the effects after 12 weeks, but what's going on after 6 months, after 12 months, and keeping that relationship in place as a core user group for feedback loops.
So how long does an average study last?
Really depends on the supplement itself and what it's aimed to do at. But the majority of the ones that we've seen when it comes to sleep, energy, et cetera, they're pretty quick acting. And in those cases, anywhere from 8 to 12 weeks is a great representation. And because we're continually collecting data, what we also show is how long does it take for someone to be on it to start seeing those results on average across the board? Is it at the 2-week mark? Is it at the 4-week mark? At the 8-week mark? Which is all great feedback. And what also people are starting to tweak around with is, okay, this is the current dosage. We know we're about a quarter. We could up it 2-3x higher and still be in a safety band. But maybe we should test 1 capsule versus 2 versus 3 and the effects that has on speed of effectiveness. And maybe there's a point you don't see the uptick. So dialing in the proper amount as well is another piece of the pie that people may do. And again, that 8 to 12-week mark is a pretty good sweet spot for a lot of the products that are not. I think you talked about weight loss, and there's a lot of others out there. Some things take time, and those might have to be 12 to 24 weeks long, but really, I guess, up to the actual thing you're trying to affect, but all to say, pretty quick in most cases, way quicker than the traditional clinical trial route.
Yeah, but I guess 8 to 12 weeks is a great sweet spot. It really depends on the supplement, whether you feel it sooner or you need more time to take it. Um, is there an optimal number of people that you guys recommend to be in the study?
We typically recommend 50. Ultimately, that's our advice. However, we leave it up to the supplement company. If they have a larger population that want to be a part of it, the more typically the better. You get more insights. But 50 is a broad enough group, statistically significant data behind it, typically, when looking at this core endpoints. And then what you'll see is you might see a few things that are signals, but you don't know, and you might want to study it a little bit deeper. The more data and the more people you have, the better. But 50 seems to be the sweet spot that we've been going with to get those statistically significant results, at least for the primary endpoints that someone's looking for.
What's like the average cost? Like, what does it cost for a supplement company to do this with 50 people?
It could be as cheap as $5,000. It can be as expensive as 25 to 30. It really depends on the number of people and the level of service that someone wants. But if it's pretty turnkey, it could be $5,000 to $10,000, a quick 8 to 12 week study, and you can have your results. And I think I mentioned the traditional clinical trial route being 100 to 300,000. I've heard quotes of higher in some cases, depending on the complexity of it. But I think what we're trying to do again is provide a more accessible tool to those that are still even early on, and those that are get a little further along might want a more sophisticated route and might have the budget to go up to that 10, 15, $20,000 mark. But for that newer company that really just wants the data to be able to accelerate the growth of their new product or their early on product, we do want to have an option for them too, because we see the value in the market that this service offers.
Yeah, I think this is a great opportunity for any supplement company at any stage, really. If you're just starting to validate the product, or if you're got some traction to really pump up the claims or really optimize the conversion on the sales, you can really even optimize many different things with the dosage, and that can really affect the retention. There's tons you can learn. So, I mean, the sleep is the obvious one, right? Because that's the data you're getting from O-Ring or Fitbit, right? But there are many other devices out there. So, like, what other, I guess, health category besides sleep would this be a perfect fit for?
Yeah, it's interesting. I've been talking with a few recently that help normalize the glucose response. So there are these devices out there, Libre and Dexcom. They're called continuous glucose monitors that you wear on your arm for 2 weeks at a time. And they 24/7 track your glucose levels. So supplements targeted at there's different pieces of it, of either maintaining it or keeping it at within a certain range. That's been an interesting new one that I've been discussing. So anyone that's targeting uh, glucose response, there are CGMs that are really, really sophisticated now that can give you that continuous monitoring and really can start seeing peaks, highs, and lows, standard deviations from average. There's a lot that can be gleaned on that. Weight's an obvious one. There are devices like Withings out there uh, that are connected and can give you not just weight but a lot of body composition metrics as well. So that's a very very common one. And then I think really what it comes down to is not just necessarily that one data point like sleep or whatnot. It's adding in those additional questionnaires to start getting those quality of life metrics like mood, energy levels, symptoms like headaches, fatigue. So there's, as I say these, I'm sure you can think of a number of products that target each of those individual things, like a nootropic for energy levels. It's a pretty broad, but I would say that there has to be a desired endpoint or two in mind that someone is addressing. The multivitamin route, the probiotic route, that's not as applicable to something like what we're doing. It's definitely more hyper specific. We're frankly, the health and wellness market is going. And I think as you look at the types of new supplement companies coming to market, there's a greater and greater share that are nutritional or wellness focused for a specific thing, and that's the type of a person we're going after, or that I think we can support. But yeah, cardiometabolic, sleep, performance based things like we discussed, and then a lot of those other quality of life metrics like specific symptom treatments or others, because the wearable data just adds the supplemental data on top of those questionnaires for something like fatigue, et cetera. Then you can correlate calories burned, number of steps taken. So as I'm sure there's so many data points, they're very can be spliced for a lot of different use cases, I guess is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely. And the people in the panel that are in the study, you're going after people who already own like those devices, or you're providing those devices to people?
Yeah, so we also have a consumer app as well. So people who are just using the Heads Up Health app to optimize their own health. So we have already a big cohort that we can recruit from and bring in, but we also want to make sure that new X supplement company, someone's interested in joining in taking it, that if they have a device, a lot of times they'll ask as a new purchaser comes in, do you have a device that they can have the opportunity to be included? So typically it's kind of whether it be 50-50, 20-80, really depends on the supplement company and how big their user base is, or I would say really their CRM list is of people who have not been using the product, or people who have used the product, but you have a new product coming out and you want to include them in it. As you'll see in the number of people with whether it be an Apple Watch, a Garmin, a Fitbit, an Aura, it's only expanded. So chances are a large percentage of your already CRM list already has one, and then we can supplement that with those that would be interested that are already within our ecosystem.
Would it also work with like just blood work? Let's say you have a supplement and none of the devices really kind of fit in, and blood work is really what you need. Like, could you also work with that type of client?
We could. So what in that case where we differentiate ourselves is, or where we draw the line is, we aren't the ones that would be the ordering physician for the labs. We would be the data capture and analysis platform for that, but we could provide the befores, the afters, the correlative effects, start providing some of this, we call them BI functionality, but really take those PDFs, put it into structured data, show trends across different cohorts, across the entire cohort to really see what's happening. So a lot of times when we're working with companies that are trying to just validate health protocols, not just on the supplement side, the labs are the most decisive indicator of whether something's working or not. So for those supplements that aren't just looking at, we talked in some ways around, I guess, fatigue, energy levels might not make sense for that. But if it's going after a specific inflammatory marker, or if it's meant to cut A1Cs, whatever it may be, yeah, I think the traditional approach is a before and after during a given time period, married with some of the questionnaires. And even though let's say Aura data, for example, the sleep data might not be, and I kind of keep going to this broader approach, might not be what necessarily you're aimed at targeting, you might see the positive trends that your potential customers might want to know about going into it. So it just adds that added layer in a really light touch way to potentially get at some of those other metrics. But yes, to answer your direct question on the lab side, we 100% can do that. And we've developed a system that can integrate with any lab, whether that be specialty or the traditional LabCorp requests.
Fascinating. How do you guys deliver the data like to that supplement client?
Because everything's coming into one database, so we're pulling all of that data into one place, and it's living obviously in different parts of our database, but we create then outcomes reports. And what's actually really cool about this, which I should have mentioned earlier, was because that this is a lot of that data is continuous on weekly levels. We provide outcomes reports throughout the entirety of the study. So we mentioned comparing week 1 versus week 2, but me as the, let's say, R&D guy at this supplement company, the guy coming up with it, or that's in charge of reviewing these results, I can look in at week 1 and start seeing the early signals and what's happening at week 1, day 10, whatever day I choose to look at it. So we provide, I call them near real time. Some of the devices have 5-minute, 15-minute, 30-minute delays to getting to us, but ultimately you're getting that near real time data feed so you can see in real time. And that's where we talked about dosage. You get to week 4 and you didn't notice anything. You might want to decide, you know what, let's double dosage. Again, it's within safe ranges. Let's see what that happens and we see the impact. So because you have a continuous data feedback loop, and we have our own product manager and data guy who creates those reports specific to the endpoints that supplement company is looking to look at over time. And then it's direct download. You have your cohort level data. Okay, I'm seeing at the end of it, 24% of people saw X. That's my headline for my press release. By week 4, you should expect this, that this is in the guidelines of what to expect when purchasing this product. As you can see, there's a lot you can do with it by having this level of data. And it's all packaged up so that you, as a supplement company, you don't really necessarily have to do anything in Excel. You can just take the data that we're providing and punch that into your marketing and packaging, et cetera, processes.
If someone's interested in doing a study, how can they get in touch with you? Where can they go to find out more about what you guys do?
Yeah, I mean, I would just go to headsuphealth.com, and there's a schedule a strategy call. You'll get on with me, Dean, or my email's dean@headsuphealth.com. So could feel free to reach out directly to me. Even if it's early on and you're still trying to sort out what you're looking for, I mean, we're happy to help. We're again, this is definitely a space and a community we're very much invested in supporting and growing deeper with. So yeah, please feel free to reach out. We'd be happy to support.
Absolutely powerful stuff. Dean, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Creative Thirst is a direct response digital agency focusing on conversion rate optimization and A/B testing. We work with dietary supplement companies who are struggling to maximize the profitability of their funnels so they can scale. Through the last 7 years in the online health space, we've optimized many dietary supplement businesses. And in that time, we've uncovered the 3 critical funnels for success. We put together that information in a free digital download called The 3 Funnels Every Health Supplement Business Needs to Build a Multi-million-dollar Empire. You can get that free report by going to creativethirst.com. Scroll down to the appropriate section and click on the blue Get Your ebook button.